Welcome to the Reform Alliance Show, our very first episode, and we have a special brother here with us. We have Brother Rizza. Thank you for coming.
My brother, you already know.
Yes, sir.
Long time coming.
Yes, sir. So we're going to just touch bases on a message to the millennials and a bunch of different other things. I'm Gianni, and this is Dave. So welcome. Just kind of to dive into it, kind of let the people know exactly, kind of who you are, a little bit of background information about yourself and how, you kind of came into all of this a little bit.
Absolutely. And I'm honored to be here with my brothers, man. Been doing a lot of work with them over the years. My name is Brother Rizza Islam. I am a activist, author, researcher, and humanitarian, and just a brother who's been working in the community for roughly 23 years now. So since I was about 12 years old. So just been doing as much as I can to help the people. I went from local to national and now international. And then of course met my brothers who are also doing some very good work.
Yes.
And this book actually I authored back in mid-2019. And basically a lot of the information that I was gathering over the years, I just put it in a book because I said, I'm sure they're going to start censoring people at a certain point. So I had to put it in a written form to where they couldn't take it away.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, cool. Just to kind of dive into a little bit about it, I wanted to touch bases on, you have a chapter in here where it kind of dives into social media.
Chapter 2.
Chapter 2, especially like a lot of these platforms are used to basically can have an effect on information, whether it be for monetized or financial gain, especially that information that can be passed from the bottom up as opposed to the top down.
Absolutely.
And kind of controlled, where they can control the narrative that is given to the people, and kind of dive into that and kind of talk to them a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I wrote that chapter specifically because once I looked at social media platforms, I said, okay, this is under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, the freedom of religion, speech, press, petition, assembly. Well, freedom of speech has to be protected, but it's been attacked for quite some time.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's look at this. The U.S. government has the ability to have access to all your information, but they have all access to your information by willing participation.
Yeah.
So if I come up with a platform to where you can download it to your phone, I just let you download me into your phone.
Right.
This is the government talking. You put me inside your phone. Cool. So now, so I got everything, and my main reason for writing that primarily is because I said we have all of these platforms now, but we don't realize how they're being used entirely. We don't know what the purpose of them was. We think it's because they wanted us to find our cousin over in Africa or in Mississippi or something. No. It had nothing to do with that. They don't care that much, right? It was to instill a level of control. It was right after 9/11. And at that point, it was to look at how they could prevent, in their words, a future terrorist attack in any way, shape, or form. So they went and started focusing on a domestic terrorist type of maneuver, which is let us prevent potential attacks by investigating and really spying on our own citizens. Okay. So I said, as a result of that, I had to put this in a book and really arm the people with the information as to exactly how it started, what the first platforms were, and the whole overall reason.
So basically, you got the CIA in your phone.
Yeah,
in your pocket.
Got them all in there.
So there was if I understand correctly, then what you're talking about is really information for everybody.
Absolutely.
It's something that the entire world really should plug into because it's
Absolutely.
information that is absolutely necessary for us to understand.
Everyone who has a phone. It's non-religious, has no care for what race you are, doesn't matter what political status you are. If you have a phone, you're being spied on for the most part. That's what it is. It's an equal opportunity situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of touch base on what was called a good faith belief, sort of the metadata, and how you think, like, even when we going over that right now, I don't think they have a really full comprehension of how wide scale it is.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily have to feel like, we got your phone tapped and we listening to your conversation. It's more a collection of that specific data to determine maybe like who you're talking to.
Yeah, it's patterns, it's algorithms, it's the consistency of the numbers you call, the areas you visit. They build things based upon consistency, frequency, how often are you doing this or that, with whom, wherever you're doing it in and or at. It's very It's very genius. It's how it goes. It's very simple. I mean, but again, we do it by willing participation.
Right.
So we have to be armed with that knowledge so that we know exactly how to get around it. But the main thing is, it's not about being fearful or afraid. It's about knowing what you're dealing with, so that you don't unknowingly put yourself out there or say certain things or do certain things that could get you in trouble, or that you unintentionally, you're saying things that unintentionally will come back with negative results. So no, it's the metadata, that whole thing. I actually learned that from one of the individuals, not only Edward Snowden, but Glenn Greenwald, who was talking about how many emails, how many text messages, how many phone calls are recorded every single day. And once he went down that number, it blew my mind to such a degree. I'm like, do you know how much data you need? A building-sized computer to store all of this, which they actually did come out with. I know you go ahead, go right into it. Come on, bro.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, I don't never read my terms and agreement. When I get an update
Come on, man.
I'm not about to go take an hour and read, through the whole thing.
Right.
and kind of reverting to, and this kind of ties into when we get into the business of Reform Alliance with dealing with federal student loan debt.
Yes.
Because it's so censored in the aspect of they control the facts that are even given.
Yes.
Even if we're telling the truth on certain scenarios, they indoctrinate the people so much to where they feel like if the information isn't coming specifically from this source,
yes,
it is wrong,
yes,
or it can't be trusted, or you shouldn't deal with a specific person in order to seek help into getting an end result, especially if it's for financial gain at all, in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You getting help.
Oh yeah, no, really,
yes.
it's a cold game, brother.
Yeah.
And the psychologists that they have in all of these industries, specifically social media, psychologists are the number one group of employees because it's based upon algorithms of thought and intelligence. So they need people who think. They need to think. Oh, it's all day mental checks. That's why they ask you certain questions. What's on your mind? Post today. Hey, what you didn't post today? It's all psychological. They give you a like, and they give you all these things that make you feel validation, and it helps to stimulate the dopamine, serotonin receptors in the brain to make you feel good about somebody liking what you said. And comment, bro, it is so cool.
I like when people like my pictures, man. That picture booming, right. That post, all right, we're gonna have some people reach out to us on that post right there.
I'm telling you.
But that was interesting in the book. You talked about when Facebook added the like feature.
Yes.
Just the growth.
Yes.
Of people on the platform went from
Yes.
like 40,000 to over 100 something or 500,000.
Yes.
Some ridiculous numbers. I don't know the
It
exact
shot up
numbers.
to the millions, definitely.
But it was ridiculous, like
Yes.
in a few months.
Yes, because people started noticing I can put something out there and get validated for it. I don't get validated at home.
Right.
I don't get validated at work.
Right.
Man, I've been doing all this work for years, and my children don't even say thank you, my wife, my people, whatever. So to get validated, it's a psychological feeling of acceptance. And they studied that, just like as you noticed from the consistency of how we maneuver. They said, oh, humans thrive on validation.
Right.
So let's put the like button. They put the like button in separately. I want y'all to understand this. It was separate after studying us.
Right.
They said put that in there, and they added other things. But yes, the growth
Watch
came.
what happens.
Yes, because people love validation.
And what about, you kind of got into the FBI with Pensa and, and how they can share specific data, which pass through Messenger, which includes law enforcement, which is the sixth option. That's not even, they the last person who get it.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you see people, and I know this doesn't really tie into the business of what we doing, but you see people post guns, money, and all type of things on social media, and you be like, now why would you post that?
Come on.
People say they watch it, but they don't think they really understand, like,
they don't believe it.
That good faith believe, like, okay, this is all that we need in order to come knock at your door. And you even mentioned one time that you had FBI officials come to your door. I watched the Interstate 85 interview.
Oh yeah, 85 South.
The 85 South. Shout out DC Young Fly, Carlos, and all of them. And you kind of explain that happening.
Brother, I'll tell you, the good faith belief system, or what people will know when they get stopped as the reasonable suspicion. Okay. They just say, okay, they have to have a reasonable suspicion in order to search, or even ask to search, etc. That good faith belief system on social media, if you read the terms and conditions, they talk about if there is something that we feel or see that may lead towards criminality, attack, trafficking, whatever. You know what? We'll go ahead and send it over.
Very easy.
I'm telling you, it's a cold game, because a lot of people have been brought to jail based upon posts that they made, even if it was just suspicion.
Right.
Good faith belief. We believe. We believe. Not we know. Not it's factual, but we believe. But then people who also started posting things that were used as proof in court cases against them, that just wasn't intelligent at all. And I'm sure somebody with the student loans bought some guns with their student loan money. I'm just saying, I don't know the percentage, but I'm sure
for education.
somebody did, but I'm sure I'm not, saying that's what happens for the majority. But definitely, it's a very interesting system, and the FBI did visit your brother because of posts I made on social media. Facebook, this is before I had Instagram. They visited me because
did they
of what
say
I
in
posted on
particular maybe with the post, which post there
They
were?
printed it out.
What?
No, I want y'all to understand this. They pull up on you, and first of all, they show me their badge. It was a very large badge. I said, okay, you guys have a nice budget. I told them, I said, yeah, nice budget. It's a nice badge. Whole mission statement. So I said, okay, good, you legit, got it.
All right.
They showed me a legal size printout of my last, I think, 10 or 12 posts at the time. This was in 2013. And I was looking, they said, is this you? They showed my DMV records. They were like, look, we just want to show you how legitimate we are. I said, okay, got it.
did our work.
Right, exactly. You did your work. Great. So they showed me the post, and I'm looking, they said, is this you? Did you post this? And I'm looking, I said, well, yeah, definitely. And mind you, nothing of a criminal nature, nothing. I mean, of course, that was me.
Yeah.
And they were like, so why did you say this about the White House? I said, there is a situation room. There's a doom clock. You guys do expose UFOs. They were just like shocked that I was admitted to it. Yeah. I didn't say anything of a criminal nature, but I wasn't supposed to know what I knew.
Yes.
All right. And I for damn sure wasn't supposed to post about it. No. Okay. Because of the good old faith belief and the terms and conditions, you're not supposed to post certain information, and they did pull up. So it is a real thing.
Nice.
Yeah, bro.
Nice. That's crazy.
It's very real.
Any thoughts on that, Dave?
Just it's just a censorship thing that I think is really what it comes down to, and unfortunately, that's kind of the control, like you were saying. It leads into kind of how the student loan stuff and all that stuff. The control of information disclosure,
yes,
is how they kind of guide people's thought process. So when you speak on things that are absolutely just fundamentally just bam in your face, that's not what they want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They want to be able to slide it into people's subliminal thought process, almost in a way that it's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
So that when it does come out, they can say, well, you knew this all the time.
Oh, man.
We just didn't put it out there in front of you.
Yeah, and that's what they do. They'll blame you for it.
Yeah.
You knew.
Make it your fault. Come on now.
You pressed the okay, but you said this.
You agreed.
Oh, come on.
You mentioned, it just blew my mind because he started to read the book first and he gave me feedback and I was like, man, you gotta read this book, man. Go through it. And I told him,
I was like, man, we better not come in here and talk to today. You ain't read this book.
Right.
I read it twice now.
Oh, come on.
And initially I went through and I just kind of was scanning and I didn't go into more depth. And then he's like, you gotta read it. And as I read more in depth, I was like, man, a lot of what you talk about, and I will give you extreme credit, is almost, it's almost so obvious, it's just almost ridiculous.
Yes.
And that's why I initially said this book is for everybody.
Absolutely.
It's for people that just need to know the truth and open their ears up to hear it, because you're speaking something that I'm an older guy, so I've heard from family and friends, but hearing it from a younger cat, very sharp, I realize why there's a lot of young people that need to hear this, because for whatever reason they're not paying attention. And these are things that are out there that are just very blatant, that the government does without no regard.
No, they don't hide it.
They don't hide any of this. And it's just a matter of really paying attention to what's going on in front of you.
Yeah, and that we're gonna get into that. That's John D. Rockefeller. We not right there right yet. That's gonna tie into that thinking, that critical thinking, and just kind of controlling that narrative.
Yes.
In chapter 3, we're kind of going to go into FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover.
Of course.
COINTELPRO.
Oh.
That was established in 1956 to disrupt activities of the communist parties of the United States. As you have put it, like domestic groups such as the Ku Klux Klan, the Black Panthers, and so many what they would label extremist groups that are pro-self or whatever it may be. Kind of get into that a little bit.
Yeah, well, first of all, COINTELPRO is not over. It evolved. That's the number one thing we need to understand. It's not gone.
In 71.
Right, exactly. It stopped in 71 is what they say. That's interesting, right? They had to evolve it because the groups that they were targeting still exist. And at that time in 1971 still existed.
Right.
They were still,
Getting
still
stronger.
up and getting stronger, making moves. So it's kind of like, no, they had to evolve it because it was so much in a blatant opposition to the United States Constitution. It was such an opposition to the fundamental principles of what they said the founding fathers stood on. So they had to evolve it to where it was not so in your face. They had to go underground with it. So social media hints later on that whole thing.
Yeah.
But in between that, they were targeting different organizations. The main groups that they were targeting were not the Ku Klux Klan and Communist Party to a degree. The Nation of Islam is one. Okay. The Moorish Science Temple is another one. And there's a whole list. I mean, when I saw the list of groups they were targeting, I said, okay, they got white groups, black groups. Oh no, it's very extensive. But the way they were targeting, how many bugs they put, I would say, in the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's home. How many bugs they put on Malcolm X's home. Then later on, how many bugs they put on the Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan's home. They were bugging people's homes. See, now we have phones. They were bugs at first.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were recording, listening to things. Martin Luther King, they bugged his hotel. They were really...
I seen that. And then send letters saying, kill yourself.
Yeah.
And
we're going to expose this information and share with your wife.
Yeah.
Brother, it was cold game.
Yeah.
They were not playing. So they were investigating people, but it was really spying on those who primarily black people, because they said, specifically Jerry Hoover said, we must prevent the rise of a black messiah who can unify and electrify the people.
Right.
So we know the primary target was black folks. Then they went after other people as well. But the primary target was to make sure we were not going to come together to separate and do something for ourselves.
That part of the book was interesting. As personally, I'm a fraternity member, Omega Psi Phi.
Oh, my brother. Gotcha.
You know?
Yes, sir.
But one of the founding principles when we pledged was the reasoning for why fraternities were formed. Omegas, Kappas, all of them, were formed so that young black people could get together in groups for safety. Because if you formed in groups of more than 3, you were assumed to be anti-government, which meant you were targeted. And so when I read that, I was like, this is the same reason that they go after groups. Yeah. It's the same reason that fraternities are so secretive about their initiation and their grouping, because they were fearful that if they were seen to be, there's more than 3 or 4 of them together, it's got to be a problem.
Well, strong focus on the black fraternities. The other
ones, black fraternities,
do their thing, but
concerned about, but
that's interesting. Yeah, and you brought up the 3 or more, which is a part of the slave codes. Do not allow them to congregate within a certain number of people, or else they'd be considered a mob. That's why they pull up on us if we hang out on the corner just talking about nothing, eating food, laughing. They pulling up on you because you're not supposed to get together. You're just not.
Especially I want you to unify.
Yeah, so that's a good point.
Also, it kind of irritated me a little bit dealing with in the book how they in essence have labeled, or a lot of people will label, and I can't generalize any specific nationality, race, ethnicity, or anything like that, but if you're pro-black, it doesn't mean that you're that you don't like white people, that you don't like a specific race or ethnicity or any sort of group like that. But if you're pro-black, it's like they're saying like you're an extremist.
Right.
Or even you have mentioned, like, they said that if you're basically pro-black and you love yourself and you do things to better the situation or scenario or your community or surroundings, it's worse than, you're labeled worse than Al Qaeda.
Yeah, they actually said that.
Like,
they said,
like for real.
They said you're worse than Al Qaeda.
I was like, Al Qaeda.
I can't believe they said that. I mean, really, and that came down from the top. I mean, the director of the FBI, and then they published it, I believe it was in Newsweek. They said that black identity extremists are worse than Al Qaeda. I'm like, wow. So we're going back to the black man is inherently evil, wicked, a devil, a thug. He has this warrior gene that predisposes us to violence. Like this is how scientists, wicked, evil scientists, were trying to say we just naturally are just evil people. All right, this is just what we are. It's like, that's very interesting to me. But Al Qaeda was created by the U.S. government. So see, you kind of trumped yourself right there.
Yeah.
All right, pardon the pun. All right, but you kind of like messed yourself up. Like you messed yourself up with that one because Al Qaeda was created by the U.S. government. That's an agreement. That's who Hillary Clinton even admitted later on when she was subpoenaed before Congress. She said, you got to remember the people that were fighting today, 20 years ago, we funded.
Right, you give them money and the guns.
Oh, brother, so it's kind of like, wait a minute, it's kind of interesting. But brother, any of us, when we stand up and we have a high level of influence, intelligence, organization, and we want to do something good for our people, do something to separate from any of the evil systems that degrade us, destroy us, etc., any of that, they call us an extremist. They labeled your brother an extremist right now. U.S. government, I'm labeled an extremist, a bigot, all this kind of stuff, and they came up with that title to resurrect COINTELPRO in the public. Okay, so they said BIEs, Black Identity Extremists. These are people who are going to stand up for themselves, defend themselves, like they say, attack police. Nobody out there attacking police. but we are going to defend ourselves against anybody who attacks us. That's
Yes.
as you should. That's a smart thing. I mean, everybody, I think,
Everybody
should
should do that.
Yeah.
Right?
But they say you're an extremist. It's kind of like, come on, guys. This is interesting.
And that made me think kind of like dealing with
Like
people.
matrix.
You have mentioned kind of the matrix, the system.
Oh yeah.
The system.
Oh, yeah.
And I've talked to I've had people call us for help and then say, this is what I know, and then proceed to tell us how to do our job after they've called for assistance with their stuff. This is what I know. I'm in this. This is the situation. This is how it should be. But in essence, they fight to not get on code. And when I say get on code, I just mean from the sense of when you make a person knowledgeable of where they stand, what their circumstances is, and how they could potentially fix that and to be in a different situation or scenario, but then yet they fight still because knowledge or information is not enough to just make a person make a decision.
Very true.
People like to buy, but they hate to be sold. You get what I mean? And so I kind of got that within the whole system of the Matrix and how the spiritual energy, and you kind of got into Neo, what it means, new or modern, and it's revived, and it's it's revived from something to become conscious. Means to step into an evolved or elevated and or an advanced level, and it's kind of like the system with student loans. Like I know dealing with in particular when we can literally help somebody. And we'll tell them, give them proof, give them a guarantee of services, and say, if this worst case scenario doesn't work, which we know it will work, because if it didn't work or we weren't able to guarantee that, we wouldn't have took your file.
Exactly.
Point blank period. And then they'll get off the phone, hang up, and call their servicer or call a student loan servicer and speak to them and say, hey man, and then they give them a quick 5-minute talk, and then they call back, say, man, I was told this and I was told that, and it's like,
you guys don't know what you're talking about.
Of course.
You don't know what you're talking about.
You know what? I'll tell you this, man. Cognitive dissonance is very real, brother. Because as you were mentioning, yes, people can be given certain amounts of information, they still won't take it and just run with it when it comes to bettering themselves.
Yes.
But they'll take it from people who want to keep them in the same condition or position. Why? Because it's easier to get that rather than working to change your condition. Even if you're paying somebody to help you to change it.
Yeah.
So I don't think it can happen because you don't believe in changing it because you don't want to work to make it happen.
Exactly.
A lot of people don't want to work. Like they really get stuck in being comfortable in this position. I already noticed with not only the student loan companies, but all these other situations that people look at, they don't want to make any effort to change anything because at this point they're like, look, I've been in this for this long, I've heard it from this many people, this many people. It's like, wait, that's all of them.
Yeah.
We know what we do over here.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
We know what we do over here. We have all of this experience. This is all we do.
Yeah.
So if we tell you this, as a matter of fact, we've shown you all of our other success stories. This is what happens. But the only thing is, you do need to put in some effort. Oh, I don't know about that. Then I don't think y'all wrestling. You got to put in some effort with anything you do. So I think that's mostly the issues that people really get stuck, and that's why I went into the matrix of the system within the system, because a lot of people are not even willing to change anything at all.
Yeah.
They are too comfortable where they are, and they're like, even if it's a negative situation,
Yeah.
I'd rather be here because I know this. Even though it's negative, I know this negative.
It's like some people thrive off the struggle.
Oh,
Like
no.
it's the normacy of if you ain't struggling,
you ain't real. You
Yeah.
ain't struggling.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
They want
Come
the
on.
path of least resistance.
Oh, come on,
They just
brother.
want to, with the least amount of effort, I want the biggest result. But
God.
we're going to do the work for you, but we need you to cooperate.
Yeah,
Mutual
some effort,
cooperation.
something. We'll do 95%, but can you give us 5?
Yeah.
Right.
Just, you got to do something.
Something.
Yes.
And just a quick question. I've often dealt with, and not just trying to help specifically our people, just anybody who needs assistance. What do you think in the process of trying to get people to be on the same page or stay on code? What is the hardest? Because I find that dealing with so many nationalities, ethnicities, and I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it on TV. Like
It's real.
it's really hard to help our people.
Absolutely.
They give the most resistance. They give me the most issues. And I say that not generally, but I feel like since they've been indoctrinated, it's so hard for them to trust. And I spend half of my time breaking down the wall
Yeah.
in order to really assist them. And it's okay. I don't mind doing that if we're really going to get to some sort of end result.
Exactly.
But why do you feel like it's so hard for us to help us
Absolutely.
and actually see some sort of result from that?
Good question. Well, the first thing is we've been used to being lied to, mistreated, abused, etc. by our own people for so long as a byproduct of someone else doing it to us for so long. So we're now doing to ourselves what was already done to us. It is a systemic thing. It is subconscious. It is on remote control, and now it's on autopilot. It is what it is. So it took years for us to get into this condition. It's going to take years for us to get out of it. It took a lot of effort, work, momentum, energy to put us in this condition. It's going to take a lot of effort, work, momentum to get us out of it. So that's why it's difficult. And those who sincerely have love for the people are going to push through, like all of you who keep doing this work. So,
alrighty, Brother Rizza, we're going to kind of jump into chapter 4, which is more of the formal educated classroom environment as opposed to the self-taught person or group of people. And you kind of dived into, are people willing to conceive or even consider that what they've been taught was wrong? Or if it's not true, or is it used as a tool to control?
Well, I'll say it this way. And the reason why I wrote that chapter, and I put that almost directly in the middle of the book, was because people who are now starting to learn new things after having gone into school for 4, 5, 10, 12 years, depending on whatever topic, legal, medical, etc., a lot of them are being faced with the reality that they were mistaught to a degree, or they were not taught certain things intentionally. They were not. They had information withheld from them. John D. Rockefeller, who was the founder of the General Education Board and who was the primary funder of the schooling system in America, he stated, quote, "I do not want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." At that point, if that's the mentality of one of the main people who fund your schooling system, then that should tell you exactly what type of schooling you will have. His advisor was a man by the name of Frederick T. Gates, who specified that we do not want to raise up from these people, thinkers, philosophers, people who are good speakers or orators. We don't want those with, we just want athletes. We just want people who are able to be controlled and turn knobs and press buttons, etc., paraphrasing. So when I looked at it, I said, damn, well, no wonder. America, we have all these doctors, but the country is sicker. We have all these psychiatrists and psychologists, but we are crazy as hell. We have all these economists, but the economy is horrible. What does that mean? Somebody was fed a lie. That's my main thing. They perpetrated a fraud. That was false advertising. Okay, so now we have a lot of people with degrees who, again, they didn't know. They didn't know. Okay, and that's the main thing. They just had no idea. So the person who was formal educated versus the one who was self-taught, large percentage of millionaires and billionaires that people look up to right now do not have the degrees in their arenas, from Bill Gates all the way around. They don't have those degrees, but they have the highest level of influence.
I've seen that.
It's a whole list of them, and they're self-taught in a large percentage. Some, of course, formal education, like we all have some formal education, but a large number of people who are the most successful were autodidacts, meaning self-taught people without a formal education. So it's just something to be, to take into consideration.
Was it Steve Jobs?
I believe he was also
Steve
to a degree
Jobs
as well. Yes. Yeah, no, it just has to be looked at, and it doesn't mean that we need to say one is better than the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just, let's be clear, just because I don't have a degree does not mean I'm a degree below you in intelligence.
Right. Absolutely.
Let's not do that, and vice versa. Let's just not treat each other that way, and let's also see how we have been scammed, because that's another reason why the student loan debt is at such a high proportion, because people were lied to go into getting a degree that did not benefit them to go towards handling the very debt that they accumulated in order to get the damn degree in the first place.
Yeah,
right.
And
it was a game.
And a lot of people in the ROI, the return on the investment for college, is not what it used to be later for our parents, who could get a job and get a degree, get a job, and then you take care of a 3 to 4 family household and still be able to buy a home. I was watching on the news the other day, and this is kind of just off everything that we've been discussing. They said it takes about $140K to live in the state of California, particularly Los Angeles inner city areas, just to be happy.
On average,
$140,000.
It is the second most expensive city to live in, next to now Miami, Florida, in America. California is the second in the country now. But it also has one of the highest levels of autism, highest levels of obesity, highest levels of dropout rates, all this stuff. So it's kind of like, what the hell have we been sold? So, people have to be willing to now realize, yes, I may have been lied to, and I have to be willing to change what I now think. It's a cognitive dissonance circumstance. I don't want that to be the truth because, damn it, that means I spent all that time, paid all that money, just to get this amount of actual good information that's useful, and the rest of that is a bunch of nonsense. It's rough. It's rough.
It's like unplugging yourself from that matrix and kind of go back to that, because it's like if I admit that, I then take accountability and I have to say the decisions that I made were just wrong, which doesn't mean that it's your fault.
Right.
But if you're not knowledgeable and you don't know it's different,
yes,
you can then correct that and say, I'm now knowledgeable. I can take that and then associate and kind of move forward to make better decisions based on that information that I've now obtained.
Absolutely.
Informed decisions.
Exactly. We can't change what we're unwilling to confront. They just want to.
And then a lot of the schools, I think you said the founders, you said you had the Gates, the Vanderbilts, the Carnegies. I don't even know personally who the Carnegies are.
Come, brother. Ooh,
I don't, me personally, so.
Listen, brother. Okay, dealing with the Carnegies, we dealing with the DuPonts, the Rockefellers, the De Beers, the Wahlbergs, the Rothschilds. Yes.
The raise that they have the...
Brother, these are the international banking families. Starting with the Rothschilds for the most part. These are the people, the families that are the highest level of influence in the world, who started with areas, for example, in the oil areas, like the Rockefellers. Yes. John D. Rockefeller, primarily an oil baron. That's where he made the majority of his money. Then you have the Rothschilds with the banking system over in Europe and all of that area. All of these families are the ones who control the influence of where the world is for the most part. Control the policies of government, control hiring, literally whining and dining politicians, and then bankrolling their entire campaign. We're going to get you made to be president. I mean, think about that. You're talking about people with who buy and sell countries, bro. Like, this is on a completely different level of power. These are not good people for the most part, but they're just people who just did business. Business. But they did business in such a high level way to where most of it was unethical, completely.
Of course.
Inhumane, terrible. But it's on that level. Like, we argue about little stuff. The stuff that they dealing with is on a whole
We probably couldn't even fathom it.
No.
We probably couldn't even think it. Our worst thoughts in order to make money probably wouldn't even be able to touch.
Bro, trillions now. You're talking about the trillions of dollars.
Right.
Like I said, buying and selling countries and nations. That is not, you cannot, ain't no loan big enough. All right? For you to be able to go and leverage that. No, bro. It's a completely different level of power.
Yeah. And I also see kind of, we were talking about just dealing with specifically with the United States, how they say that we were in the top 10 being the most educated countries, but come to find out, it seems like we're not even in the top 20 universals.
No.
We didn't even make the top 20 list.
No.
And a lot less people are reading, and they don't want to be knowledgeable.
No.
You know what I mean? And kind of get into that of how that is the case.
No, in America, for example, currently with adults, roughly 20% of the United States, the adult population is below the 6th grade reading average. Okay, they're functional illiterate for the vast majority. 20% of American adults. So there's 330 million people in America, right? So if you look at that percentage and you say 20% of that, you're talking about people in the tens of millions who are not able to read and write. Adults. Right. So you look at that, then you look at the percentage of people who are not reading, the percentage of people who are not graduating from college, the percentage of people who are not even going to college. Now you have to look at all of this. So when you look at engineering and technology and all this, America's not in the highest level when it comes to us originating it. We import people from other countries. We import other people from Nigeria and China and all this. Why? Because they have a much more serious connection to intelligence and knowledge as it pertains to respecting it more. And I'm saying on average. And we do too, out here to a degree, but when we're saying as a country, we have to humble ourselves because America's not the greatest and she never really has been in that area when it comes to education. So yeah, we're not in that top list. As a matter of fact, when I started looking over the recent numbers, it blew my mind. Pretty much most of the countries that America criticizes are more intelligent. I'm like, damn, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, it's a very interesting situation.
Man, and you have anything to kind of iterate on, Dave?
Just just the education thing is just it's unfortunate because like you said, it's just it's a vicious cycle, and it is a conditioning, I think, for the entire country. I mean,
absolutely.
As a kid growing up, I have a family that a lot of them college educated, and they reaped a big benefit. They came from small town in Louisiana, and big family moved to California, and all of them very productive. pass that down a couple generations, you know, college is not the same anymore. You go to college, you get all this debt, and then you still don't really reap a big benefit from it. So it's like a waste.
I was looking at a commercial yesterday online where they said, would you like to get your master's degree in less than 1 year for less than $11,000?
Oh.
I said, what the hell is that? what is, wait a minute. I'm like, hold on. Okay, not an associate's, which is 2 years normally, not a bachelor's, but not a master's, which is normally 4. You're telling me I can get a master's in certain areas for less than 12 grand? They said less than 11 grand
in 1 year.
In one, oh, what kind of damn food stamp type of? No, that lets me know what type of value they place on degrees now.
Yeah.
What does it really mean now?
Can't be that great.
No, seriously, because now you got people making millions of dollars on social media who have no degrees whatsoever. You got 12-year-olds doing video game reviews on YouTube making millions every year. So now the value on a degree is far less, even though the trades, for example, and things like that to live and build and things like that are very important. The attention is being pushed elsewhere. So now they're like, here, we'll just give you a degree, it's just a piece of paper now. It's like, it didn't used to be that. It used to be a lot of hard work that went into that. But now it's like, look here, just here, you have a degree. Great.
You have it, put it on your resume.
Right. Oh, man.
And we deal with that a lot, especially dealing with the for-profit or the Corinthian colleges who misled a lot of people into believing that they could go for short periods of times, which President Biden has now implemented so many different changes to where if those schools close down to the loss of credentials or accreditations, or you weren't able to graduate or get a certification or have those credits be deemed non-transferable. Okay, so the school shut down. I still got an education to understand that. But at that point, I can't even further my education to transfer to a different school and pick up where I left off, because they're saying due to the loss of those credentials, they're no longer even validated as that information is even being able to be used moving forward. And you know, they've kind of tackled, I guess, Barr's defense where my own, you know what I mean, as far as my spouse, she had like not to indulge too much, but it was like 40K, and she was supposed to be due to graduate with a criminal justice, degree to be a juvenile probation officer, and then 2 weeks before graduation, she went to school and the doors were locked and it was closed down, and then they sent her a tab for 40K.
Oh, wow.
You owe us 40,000,
and that happened to a lot of people in a lot of schools.
And imagine if she didn't have us, who are knowledgeable how to deal with it, because even now. Even when we go to look at it, it says it's going to be discharged 100% in full, but she still has the balance.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So in the process of people looking for hope, dealing with student loans, which is, by the way, at roughly 1.7 to 1.8 trillion, which is the largest debt in America, second largest debt in America right now, right below mortgage debt. A very unpopular opinion to some, which you can say only roughly 13% of people have decided to go to college. So you have people that say, why should I pay for forgiveness for their degrees when I just felt like I didn't want to go to college? You know what I mean? It's more people who don't want forgiveness than who actually do.
That's true.
And that's the crazy part. So you have a fine line of people trying to implement specific things or fix broken programs and different things like that in order to kind of appease both sides. And I'm not going to get too much to Joe Biden's sleepy Joe, because I hear
it's real.
You know what I mean?
But the educational field, brother,
with midterm elections coming, I think that they'll do something or make some sort of announcement.
Of course.
He's been definitive in saying by the end of August, whether I'm going to discharge loans or not, I'm going to extend it, you'll have some sort of answer. And I kind of say that to get into, just dealing with chapter 4. You even said out of roughly 739 out of over 2,400 billionaires, they don't have degrees.
No.
And it's not a necessity or a commodity, because Google, Apple, they're hiring more based on experience. So if you come in with more experience and you're knowledgeable with that without a degree, they're more likely to hire you than somebody who's been formally educated.
Of course.
So and that's not a knock, because we deal with it, but it's just both sides of the spectrum where
companies are
it's effed up.
More real-time experience.
No, because they see. They've analyzed the data over time, how many people they've had to fire because they came from college with no experience, and we brought him in, to see if he can last 2-3 months. But this guy who's been under us, watching us for years, or he was doing his own thing, comes in, he could fix problems like this with no degree, but he helped us to make more money in less time. Well, you know what? Might as well. I get it, but now it's very disheartening because it's like, damn, people are taking years out of their lives, accumulating debt to get a degree that they can't even use because they don't have the experience. Now it's like, wow, when people used to laugh at you for having experience and no piece of paper to validate it, now you're being laughed at with just a piece of paper and no experience to validate it. Damn.
You know,
it's a cold game.
Yeah. And we'll dive into chapter 5, kind of our unity, the community, and not more or less the individual. What really struck me, man, it was a part in here on page 63 where you said, have you ever tried to establish a business and work in every capacity and wear every hat and be in every job position and try to make it a successful move?
I know that's you.
That was literally me to where I had to be forced to figure out how can I delegate my time and be able to work as an owner and work on scaling and work on building as opposed to being an employee with inside of your own business, but also you have to work in order to gain capital so you can help yourself to even be able to help other people. And then even after that, it's like, this is my baby, man. If I put you in control, what are you gonna do with this? Do you have the same intentions? Because I might not have the ability, based on that time being delegated, to micromanage from the top down, and you have to put people in a position that you trust.
That's real.
Kind of get into, how that works as far as, why it's better, to come together and kind of implement staying on code and come up with some sort of agreement in order to make progression, as opposed to saying, I'm the chosen one, or I'm going to do this, I got this by myself.
Well, I'll tell you, here's the crazy part. People want to say they want to fight, or they want to build, they want to do all of this. Everything that we are dealing with works in conjunction with itself. It's a collective unit. People who say they want to fight or they want to have a business. Okay, if you're in a war, everyone is not the archer. Everyone's not the gunman. Everyone's not the swordsman. Everybody, no, there are different factions of this. So we all have different areas. Okay, but wait a minute. When it comes to military and fighting, what's one of the main things that you all need? Food. Where to cook at? Somebody has to be the cook. Okay, somebody has to watch the children because children are somewhere. So you need somebody to take care of them. You need someone who makes the clothes. I mean, it's we have to think outside the box on this thing. Not only that, when it comes to us being united, for example, our physical body. It's funny how we argue all the time, but our body is united while we're arguing. Your organs inside of your body are working together. What if your heart started gang banging on your lungs? What if your lungs started gang banging on your kidney? Your stomach started gang banging on the intestines? Man, I don't feel like passing nothing down to you today. What the hell? Yeah, you'll be done. If the heart said, like, I'm gonna just stop beating, I'm gonna see what all y'all gonna do about that. The eyes like, I don't feel like working today.
Everybody freaks out.
No, I mean, really. So we need to be more like our physical body and work together, or else we will die as a collective. We have to come together. It's very simple.
And
there's unity, strength and unity.
Absolutely.
And numbers.
And I think that ties into our business model. When dealing with people with student loans and stuff, I kind of made some notes because we try to get the borrowers to be on code.
Absolutely.
And they need to be on code because sometimes the Department of Education or these servicers who we deal with when assisting people, they make it very difficult because it's set up like that for you to fail, so that you have to come to them for advice. And I won't dive too deep into it, but the Naviants, the Nailnets, the Sally Mays, which you did mention in the book.
Sally Mae. Jesus.
The lawsuits and the amount of them. And the amount of knowledge that you can just look up strictly through Google. You don't even really have to do too much of a deep dive to know that they've misled borrowers. That they've tweaked numbers. They've lied about interest rates. Especially, interest on top of interest. Literally when you consolidate, you take the interest that you owed and they compounded it, added to the principal, and then you accrue more interest on the principal balance from the interest that was added to the principal while accruing interest. And that's how you get people who take out maybe $40,000, and then I talked to a lady yesterday. She had $194K. She took out $90,000 in federal student loans, and the rest of the remaining balance of the whole 194, only 90 of it was what was taken out. The rest was interest.
Wow.
Out of 194K, 90K was originally borrowed, and because you have forbearances and you have, as opposed to making people knowledgeable. You know what? If you lost your job, brother, just go into an income-driven program. We'll give you a $0 payment, make a $25 to $50 payment just to cut back the interest. So that way, you don't have your credit being affected negatively. So you don't see your balance go up, but at least it gives you the ability to kind of hold on based on your current living situation, your circumstance, whether you're low income right now, whether you lost your job, or whether it's whatever that specific situation may be. But you know what they did? Oh, don't even worry about paying. Let's put you in that forbearance. Let's accrue 7% interest over the next period of these few years. You don't have to pay us nothing. And then when you consolidate or you switch programs, it's like a re-up of another 3 years of forbearance, and then they go back into these things and they just accrue crazy interest and they never make payments.
And hide it, because when you ask for the forbearance, they tell you, by the way, when your forbearance is done, we're going to capitalize all your interest into your balance.
They tell you
twice as much.
So up front, they tell you we're going to add it, but you know people are in a dire situation, so
and they know that.
Take what they need.
Taking full advantage. Oh my God,
it's terrible.
Yeah. Anything, Dave? Kind of.
No, I think you're hitting it right now. It's I mean, most of this is, like I said, really on point with really is the education of people, and it really is. It's disheartening to know that there's so much information that's out there that people are just not connecting to, and how much they're getting taken advantage of. I mean, these programs are really slanted very heavily against the general population under the guise of, hey, this is to help you. Get an education, make more money, have a good life. Not get an education, go into debt, be stressed, and pay those bills.
Yes.
Because that's really what they're setting you up to do.
And the crazy part is, I was reading something and it was said, a black graduate has a higher chance of defaulting their federal student loans than their white counterparts who basically dropped out. So you can have a black graduate which has a higher percentage of defaulting on their loans than a white counterpart who actually dropped out of school.
Wow.
Now you talk about the inequities of employment, though.
Yeah,
because
that's real.
Two individuals going to college with the exact same degree, but because of the color of their skin, are going to have different opportunities when it comes to employment, different earning potential. Thus the problem.
Getting back to any system that kind of thrives on the destruction you kind of have mentioned, or the annihilation, or the holding a specific group of people down in order for it to succeed is kind of never a good thing.
Absolutely.
Let me see here. We also went into, we have a lot of great stuff in here, man. It's so crazy. This is crazy. And we also, we kind of got into,
see that, right?
Man, I'm looking at, I'm like,
Yeah. It's real. That's public record.
I know it is. I know it is.
Right. They're like, what is it?
Man. Divide and conquer.
Yes.
I don't even think that's something that's really something that's hidden in every aspect of war, in every aspect of manipulation. It's a divide and conquer.
Yes.
And kind of give us your take on that, because I know even you kind of get in here through even different gangs and hoods across the country. It's basically a divide and conquer. That it's a tactic used to maintain control.
Absolutely. The people who are in control at the highest levels, which are, those international bankers, people call them the elitists, they call them the globalists, you call them those who believe in the supremacy of themselves, whether white or Arab or black or Jewish or whoever. That group of people at the top, the only way they can maintain perpetual control is by keeping the majority of the people uneducated. Keep the majority of people arguing amongst themselves. I'm not interested in arguing with somebody who doesn't have any power or control. I'm not. So once I realized, wait a minute, you don't have no damn power to change what's going on. Why am I even arguing with you? But see, we don't think that because they use emotion, they use tricks and lies, they use distrust, they use all these things to keep us doing this right here. And that way they can continue controlling everything, taking the money, taking the land, controlling the policies. They can do that because the people are not focusing on the real enemy.
Right.
And yes, the main enemy above all enemies is our ignorance.
Right.
That's the number one above everything else, because if we knew what we didn't know, then we'd be able to change the condition that we're living in right now. We just have to really point that out and look at it and say, wait a minute, you're not my enemy. You didn't put me in this position or this condition. Literally, you didn't do this to all of us. Wait a minute, why the hell are we arguing here? We are not the ones who did all this. Maybe we perpetuate it right now, but we didn't originate this situation. And once we get that through our head, then the real enemy will manifest and they will no longer have power. It's really that simple. And that's what people are starting to realize now. To a degree, they're starting to see it.
All right, so we're going to kind of dive into chapter 7, which I found really particularly really interesting. It's titled, instead of television, tell live vision, control over the masses. You kind of dive into how the main media companies are kind of owned by 6 major corporations that control the images, the narratives that is displayed to millions of people, and they are bought and paid for.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Kind of dive into that a little bit.
When you have the same minds controlling minds, just know they don't want the script to be changed. It's not how this goes. There's a specific program. It's like when you as a business owner, you have the script, you know how this is supposed to go. It's trial and error. You've been through it yourself. Nobody needs to deviate from what I've established.
Yes.
That's how it is. For you, it's a good thing, but from their perspective, what they're doing, it is we have to control the minds of the people so that they do not realize what it is that we're doing. So the majority of tell live vision, I said tell live vision programming because they're programming you visually by telling you lies. It's very specific, very strategic, but they own pretty much everything that we see, not only in the mainstream news and all that, but every channel, every movie for the most part, and it has to be a certain wave of programming every year because people will start to pop out and wake up after a certain point, but it has to be refreshed every so often. That's why movie theaters, I tell people, I said, do you think they really spend millions of dollars just to entertain you? You think they're going, let's waste millions of dollars just to make you laugh? No, it is programming. That's the point. It has to be done. The U.S. military, particularly the CIA, FBI, Department of Defense, all of them have contracts with Hollywood. What? Everyone has to know this. Oh yeah, they've had contracts for years. Yes, not just to use in military vehicles for war movies and stuff, but actual writers. Certain things when it comes to writing scripts.
Okay.
For example, the CIA and FBI, they have contracts with certain movies, in particularly. Well, we're going to add this in there, or no, we want you to take that out, etc. If you want to use this, use that. It's a very real thing to keep the people's minds in a perpetual state of psychosis, fear, or in an unrealistic approach to where they won't believe the truth when it hits them. They'll think it's fiction. So for example, when stuff happens in reality that they already planned to happen, and you point it out to somebody like, man, you just saw that movie last week, man. You saw that movie, brother. He's like, no, nigga, it's in the documents, it's right there. Like, nah, man, see, that's how they orchestrate it. So it's a very real thing. That's why when I go to the movies, I can enjoy it, but I'm too busy counting out those zeros and ones in the matrix that I'm looking at. I point it all out, but it's a very real thing.
Keith Rupert, who is that?
What was it again?
Keith Rupert. Keith Rupert Murdoch. I think you said he owns Fox News.
Yes.
The Wall Street Journal and the New York Post.
Yes.
General Electric.
Yes.
All of those. That's it.
Yes. That's okay.
Very
Again,
powerful.
One of the top U.S. military contractors for the U.S. government.
Yes.
In addition, he owns Comcast.
Yes.
Okay.
Want the umbrella. All right, go from the umbrella, go underneath it, and go all the way up that thing. And you start to realize it's normally 1 or 2 people over these main companies.
Right.
1 or 2 people. Then above all of that now, the new data that came out is Vanguard and BlackRock. Those are the 2 that are above all of those. These are the 2 companies, corporations that own all of those, including Comcast, NBC, Fox, and all that. These are the 2 top that's going to be in book 2. Vanguard and BlackRock. But it's a very real thing. This is not thousands of employees. No. Or probably there's thousands and tens of thousands of employees. But the owners, it's less than 10 folks. It's just right there.
Right.
And they have the same mentality. Control the masses, maintain power and control. Simple as that.
I literally now go through social media and they give you the option where you can hit the little 3 dots and then you can say, I just don't want to see it no more. Don't show posts like this. Yes. And I'm so tired of seeing people fighting in Walmart. Yeah. People getting shot by the police.
Yeah.
Women shaking their ass.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It just gets the same thing. I just go through it now, or hair pages. Excuse me. To where I just kind of control the information that I now receive more, even though I may follow people for specific reasons.
Of course.
But I might not be as more or less interested in the sidebar that comes along with that. Man,
it's real. They give you that option now.
Yeah, they give you that option now. It'll say, show less posts like this.
Right.
Well, see, and the funny thing is, they establish the social media so that you can post whatever it is on the internet, so that way they would have to focus less money on the budget of investigation because you're confessing already. So it's less searches because you just put it up there anyway. You told us what you eat, your kind of car, you tell us what the area you hang out in. Hell, you told us what kind of gun you use or something.
Even on Vlad TV, how they tell
Oh my gosh, that dude, Jesus.
And I'm not making no disrespect, man. He doesn't coerce anybody into telling them themselves, but I'll definitely say, man,
come on.
You don't have to work very hard, man.
No, it's real. So it was the way they did it at first was they just made it open to where people can voluntarily put themselves out there. Now they are kind of trying to backtrack because it became overwhelming with people posting so much to where now they give you the option to kind of scale down on things, but it's backfiring because now we're also posting documents on there that they didn't want to be revealed to the public. Right. So it's backfiring on them.
I know you kind of said you wanted to get back to like kind of establishing a brotherhood within inside of the communities to where we self-police and self-watch ourselves. And the thing with me, it's always that somebody that want to be the top dog. It's always somebody who, one thing I loved about you, even when do you know how we first met? My sister was helping me on Instagram. And she was doing, helping me find some people to help market and different stuff like that. And when she had reached out to you and she wasn't available, sometime I would be on the internet like, hey, this is
I remember that.
But it's really me talking like, you know what I mean? And you don't jeopardize ethics or morale for money.
Yes, sir.
And anything that you back, we get people that call, hey man, brother Rizza, do you need my social? Do you need my card number? And I'll be like, whoa, we don't even slow down. We don't even know if we can help you. I heard y'all was black owned, but just you being a person of so much ethics and just character, and when people hear something for you, they know that it's fact, they know that it's truth, they know that it's been researched, and they know that you weren't paid, or bought in order to put your tag on it or say, hey, this is who I rock with, this is what I feel is honorable, and this is what I feel is truth. And that's one of the things that I love about you the most.
Appreciate that.
And I respect that, brother. And nothing will ever change that. Nobody can ever tell me anything about you because I go off of my self experiences of how people are handled and how I've been dealt with and how we've dealt with each other and how helpful you've been to us. Whether it was monetized for financial gain or not, it don't even matter. Because in the process of helping people, you need to be able to make money to keep that machine well oiled, to be able to keep going and just pay the bills on a daily basis, to be able to do what you're able to do.
Absolutely. It's a real life.
It's a very real life. It's a very real life. Yes. Like they did a study with kids right now. They rather be unemployed, and they say, I'd rather not work and feel like I'm happy and than to work, because when I work it makes me feel like I'm not happy in my life. You know what I mean? But it's a very unrealistic thing, that because you have to work and take care of bills and take care of everyday life, that you feel you have to be unhappy doing that. If you make less money, or you feel like, I can live in poverty and be happy with it, and I can make $40,000 or $25,000 a year and life is great for me, that's a good thing, because it's always, perspective.
That's true.
And that's for sure, man. Anything to iterate on that, Dave?
That's you hit it pretty. That's.
So I did all the talking.
I'm speaking the truth, bro.
Truth is truth. There's nothing really to add to the truth. That's what it comes down to. It's
psychology. I seen you speak on psychology.
That's a big one. That's a big one. Yes.
We're not gonna dive too deep into it, but I remember you saying about a lot of the theses and bases of a lot of the psychology are based on old books, to where a lot of those myths have been dispelled, as far as we are the inferior, based on skin color, dealing with, has nothing to do with our brains. Kind of speak on that a little bit for me, please.
Let's see. Without going too far back in history, I'll just say one book is The Bell Curve, I believe authored in 1994.
What is that?
It's a book where they were going over the natural inferior people versus the natural superior people as it pertains to intellect. Okay. And so they were using graphs, and they were looking at different statistics and cultural standards and differences to determine that white people were more intelligent naturally. and blacks and Mexicans were less intelligent naturally. Then they were going over the IQ, and they were looking at all of that to try to intellectualize and say, well, you know what, naturally they're not as intelligent. I mean, and this was being taught in school, and it's still being taught in school right now.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, that book, The Bell Curve, specifically, that was, again, which it's not true, obviously, but that is something that was instituted throughout the area of psychology, because psychology and psychiatry have been heavily involved in the destruction of humanity.
Yes.
Okay, the area of the mind. When you go back to Benjamin Rush, the father of American psychiatry, when you go back to Wilhelm Wundt, talking about in Nazi Germany, and Friedrich Nietzsche, a lot of people quote him, but a lot of people don't really know what his philosophy was. Nietzsche, he said things like, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. Type of things like that. And these are the mentalities of those who start to control the mindset of the minds of the people throughout, society. And even the connection to slavery and this and Russia and all of what they did in the area of psychology and psychiatry. And even Adolf Hitler himself was under the care of Karl Brandt and Theodore Morell, both psychiatrists, both psychologists, and they helped to manipulate his mind and how his mind went into that radical position. It's a lot of stuff in the area of psychology, so we have to train ourselves to get our minds back. Okay. That's the main thing.
One of the things that threw me off was the term nigritude.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, that's Ebonics, man.
Oh, man, come on.
You just call me a nigga, man?
Right. Real smooth.
Yeah, but it was just kind of like, you're considered to be crazy because you want a better life. Yeah. You don't want to be a slave. You don't want to be held down, and that was considered to be a disease, man.
Nigritude, you are crazy, you're insane because your skin is black. That came from Benjamin Rush, the father of American psychiatry, who literally said that black people suffer from a disease called nigritude, which makes their skin dark. It's like leprosy. The only way to cure it is to make their skin white. This is how insane the area of psychology
That's crazy.
was. You even had someone by the name, this individual, who came up with a term called drapetomania, Samuel Cartwright. Drapetomania meaning a runaway slave, a person who was crazy because they want to run away from slavery. That was a disease, drapetomania. We're crazy because we want to run away from slavery. I mean, this is it's crazy, right? Like, this can't be real, but this is very real. And this is in the area of psychology and psychiatry, and they use that to manipulate the minds of the people, how they use it on black people, white people, like I said, Russians, Native Australians, all over the world. That is very real, and that also came out of course, the system of eugenics, and then that was pushed throughout the world on everybody.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Part of his reason for even coming up with this concept really was to justify slavery anyway.
Absolutely.
To continue it, right?
Absolutely.
So if they could continue it here, and then they could put that narrative out there in the world, then, hey, they're not bad people for enslaving those people.
No, they did us a favor. Yeah, those are animals. Those are people that are naturally inferior. They are inherently inferior. Yeah, the way they used to talk just about human beings, whether you're black, white, women, men, the way they would talk about people who they said were born inferior, or they would have a term called undesirables, is the way they would class people who were born with certain handicaps, or if you were a woman, that was a handicap. Usually you're a woman. All right, that was a whole other area. Or a child, you're a delinquent. Margaret Sanger, all of them were a part of the system of eugenics. And this is really how they thought, and this is what influenced the schooling system. This is what influenced the financial institutions. This is what influenced everything in this country and in the world. It came from some very crazy as hell people, quite literally.
Thinking a little small box.
Right.
A little small box of thinking.
Seriously.
This is a lot to take in. I think, do you think that plays a role in why when we commit, because I hate to say, I'm a fan of D.L. Hughley, and I love him. It ain't no black on black crime. Crime occurs in the vicinity of the residency or the area that you live in.
It's called proximity killing.
Exactly. So, do you think that's why, based on those psychology laws that these people have implemented, even though we now know that it's wrong, that when white people kill, or you have mass shooters, and then you have people like us, as far as African Americans who live in the so-called hood, and we've been indoctrinated. And when you unpack it, it's really saddening, because when you unpack it and look at when we kill each other, we're killing people who look like us, who dress like us, walk like us. So it sets you kind of hate on yourself.
That's a fact.
Why are we labeled he's just a thug, he's a criminal, he's just another nigga out to do damage, as opposed to, oh man, Dylan, man, he's mentally ill, he needs help. Why do you think they get away with playing the race card as far as the mentally ill card, as opposed to why is he not a thug?
It was invented for them as a get out of jail free card, literally, before Monopoly. All right, so because there's two justifications. One, we have to justify why we're killing this group, and two, we have to justify why we're not killing this one.
Right.
So there were ways that they use that, because again, and this is just the reality of how it works. If I did the same exact crime that this Caucasian individual did, same age, same city, same state, same background, commit the exact same crime, same day.
They're bringing an electric chair to
Oh,
your
come on. Come on. And this is known now. White folks for the majority, now they're seeing it like, yeah, you know what, this is crazy. All right, now this is just, come on.
Yeah.
But that is, again, the founders were very evil, wicked people. Okay, and that's how they set it up. So to say black on black crime is a way to justify the killing of black people, rather than to say we need to take accountability for setting up the environment that created this. Because now I have to go all the way back and I have to accept accountability, which means I accept liability, which means I am now taking responsibility. That means financially I got to acknowledge it. That means I have to look at all the history books and look at what we put in those books. Damn, so we have to remove all the history books. We have to go into the environment and say, well, damn, we put all those chemicals in there to institute the different circumstances that are affecting their brain patterns and their chemistry and their body. I got to take responsibility for all that. They're going to have to undo everything that they did.
Not willing.
So they're like, instead of doing all of that damn work, let's just say black on black crime. All right?
Yeah.
You guys just kill each other. It's easier.
That's your problem.
Seriously. Take no responsibility for the monster you create. It's like Frankenstein and his monster. Dr. Frankenstein created the monster. The monster kills him. Well, you created the monster. You see? And then, of course, we take our responsibility as well. However, both sides must take responsibility and hold themselves accountable. One for creating it, the other for perpetuating it.
Yeah.
It's just that simple.
Okay. We kind of short on time here. I was just kind of getting to chapter 10, Law of the Land. This was a really intricate and a really a deep chapter. I think out of all of the chapters, I won't say it's my favorite, but I think it's most universal because it has nothing to do with anything but the law of the land and the sea. Kind of dive into this a little bit and kind of tell us a little bit about this, dealing with birth certificates and how they're purchased by corporations and all of these, as far as the U.S. Treasury going bankrupt as a result of the Civil War, you know what I mean, and seeking help from global financiers and different stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, prior to 1914, prior to 1913, people in the United States didn't pay taxes in the way that we do today, for example, number one. Number two, birth certificates were established by the federal banks to guarantee a return on investment. So you could say it's like they bought the citizens as capital, all right? So it's like we bought people as capital and invested in them as businesses and then projected how much money they're going to make during their entire lifespan, and then we're going to borrow based off of future projections. This is how much this person potentially will make in his or her lifetime. $1 million, $2 million, $400 million, $30 million, whatever. Cool, we're going to borrow that. Here's the value of this person. Put that on the stock market. Birth certificates. This topic, and the reason why I put it in here is because it's becoming more and more and more publicly known that people have to understand what the birth certificate means and what is being a corporation versus being the living human being that was actually born, but then you also have a corporation that is created in your exact same name.
And that's the straw man.
That's the straw man. Okay, that's that. But then you have the all caps, corporation, which is not you, but it's what they created to reflect you while they're investing in you, as long as you exist.
Yeah.
So they have that, and then they also trade on the stock market. They also, when you go to jail, they invest in you in there. They put insurance policies on it. So if you die or expire, your business goes down, they recoup the money from the insurance companies. All of this is a big corporate grab. It's a big game, and it's also another form of slavery. So that's also is another universal thing when it comes to human beings. We have to understand the law of the land, law of the water. You're talking about maritime admiralty, or also known as from the Catholic Church, you're talking about Roman canon law, where they were looking at how a boat operates on the ocean. You have to know how that literally connects to court systems, when you're walking into the building or you're stepping onto or from the port onto the actual boat. It is so metaphorical that has been translated into such legal documentation to where the very words themselves are legally binding words. It's a whole nother way of understanding how this system even works.
That's that Brother True stuff right there. Right. That sovereign. I'm telling you, we're gonna get him on. We're gonna get him on here.
I learned all kinds of stuff like that. But it's just knowledge. It's just I added that so that people also can know that's another part of the game. Okay. You have to know this. We have to know all these things. Whether if you subscribe to it or not, at least you gotta learn about it.
Right, man. This has been an honor.
Man, come on.
Message to the millennials.
You know what it is,
Brother Rizza Islam. It's an honor to have you here.
You already know, brother.
For our first show, I think this is absolutely, this is astounding. We appreciate you. We appreciate you, Dave, the guy behind the camera, Yuri. Thank you for being here with us and helping us with everything. It's going to be a wrap. Until the next time show, we'll talk to you another time. Bye-bye.
Reform Alliance, you already know.
Reform Alliance.
Peace.